I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom.
We got The Plague, Pony Express, and our man NoDoze in the house. Redwood, SiteQ, CSAUP leader. He's, I think, legal counsel for the F3Omaha Foundation, legal counsel for a lot of other important cases too. But I think we're excited to get a chance to talk to you, NoDoze. Just to kick us off, we would love to hear your story. Who brought you out? How'd you get the name NoDoze? And then, because you are an official Redwood, tell us about that first day from your perspective. What was that like?
Well, I think you hit on it first. I'm probably the most prominent legal mind in F3Omaha.
Hey, now I take offense to that.
Yeah, no offense, Pony, or the other
30 attorneys.
Yeah. So, Brazilian. This is a sad story, right? I mean, Brazilian EH'd me, so nothing too original there, other than the fact that it was very, very subtle the way he approached it. We were having dinner or cocktails at our house with he and Sarah, and he just casually mentioned, after 2 or 3 whiskeys, hey, I'm doing this workout tomorrow with these guys. It's like a boot camp. You think you want to go? And that's about as much as I remember. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll show up. And then he sent me a link, I think in a text message. I looked it up, and I was admittedly skeptical about it. Just I don't know if it was the faith aspect, or if it was the lexicon. There were various things that kind of made me skeptical, and I think it's reflected on my face in the video of the first name Rama, but we can get to that. But I did show up, and that first workout was pretty brutal for me. I thought I was in, Brazilian would tell you I was like a 4 or 5 fitness level going in. He would tell you I was just 50 pounds overweight and needed a real kick in the ass out there. But I thought I had been running quite a bit before that. I knew when I turned 40, I had to lose about 20 pounds. And I probably lost about 10 by that point. So I felt like I was in pretty good shape, but it was a brutal workout. But anyway, at the end of that workout, I was explaining it was wait time cued it, and was telling him a little bit about myself. And he said, what do you do? I said, I'm an attorney. So got 4 kids. Oh, yeah. What's your wife do? Oh, she's a surgeon. Okay. Well, what are your kids' ages? I said, well, my daughter is 4 years old. I think she was at the time. And my sons are 3 years old. And he kind of, you could see him doing the math in his head. He said, wait, 4 kids, but he only gave me, 1 age. I said, yeah, that's triplets. And I don't know if someone shouted it out, but there were all these comments about sleep deprivation and the fact that I was, probably a pretty busy guy. But I think he said, oh man, you're not getting any sleep at all. You need NoDoze. That's it. NoDoze. I know some guys don't love their nickname, and I think initially I just didn't like having a nickname at all. I thought if one thing was going to keep me from coming back to that second workout, it was the fact that we just gave each other nicknames.
Yeah.
But now I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's one of the better names in my opinion. It's a good name. It's a good name.
I agree. And in regards to your fitness, I mean, a 4 or 5, I have seen the photos circulated of that first name Arama. And I think a 4 or 5, I mean, that's pretty close. I will commend you. You've worked your way up since then.
So what, any memories from that first workout, or I guess even just the last 3 years? Would love to hear kind of your, maybe some highlights, like what's stuck out to you? Anything like funny or maybe just a highlight moment?
You know, the first several workouts that I did, which is funny, it probably happened over the course of several weeks, because at that time, you know, you either went to the Oracle at Boys Town or to Cornhusker, right? And so over the course, but I kept on going to Oracle, and that was, so it was once a week guy, and I just remember challenging myself that these were the hardest workouts I'd ever done. And, you know, I wasn't burning more calories than I normally would, like with a run, but it was just doing different things, which is good. I mean, I think we need to do that, you know, in everyday life, and I'm not really good at that, but I think F3, just doing those workouts and doing new things, you know, bear crawls or shoulder taps, or, you know, I don't know, just, you know, 100 burpees, whatever it is, that's just different than anything I'd ever done. And so I feel like just experiencing those types of new things, like a Steinel, which I now feel is like an old thing, you know, it was good for me to do, just to get me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, where were you? Where would you say you were kind of at in your life leading up to that first cue, I guess, or that first workout?
You know, I'm sure Brazilians saw it and knew I needed it, but I didn't realize it at the time that I was the quintessential sad clown, I would say. And I realized that, you know, when it was probably over Christmas of that year, that my wife got me Free to Lead as a gift, and I started reading that and put all the pieces together and said, wow, you know, pre-April 2018, definitely the quintessential sad clown. It was a real page turner for me, and I'm sure it is for a lot of guys. If you've read it, I don't know if everybody on this call has, but
I am in the middle of it. Okay, I'm like 90 pages in, so I've only got about like 30 left.
I was a total sad clown. I was, you know, I've told some people this, but you know, I'd lived in Omaha for 3 years during law school. We went away for several years and came back, I guess in 2013. So 5 years before I did my first F3 workout, and I never, until I did several months of F3, I never felt like Omaha was really my home. And I think F3 made Omaha my home. I know I've heard guys like Wait Time say, you know, he stuck around Omaha because of F3. It's not because of any other connections or family or anything like that. And, you know, my wife has a massive family here, and I love them. They're awesome. And if anybody's ever met, like, both sides of my wife's family, they know they're a ton of fun. But I needed, and I didn't realize it, but I needed relationships outside of work, outside of family. And the only way that I could get those was through F3. But I didn't know about it. I didn't realize it until I started doing it. So, yeah, that's kind of where I was.
What, so you've done a tremendous job growing in your leadership through F3, at least from my experience. And I think about, it feels to me, and I know other site Qs, guys that planted sites, like they created sites, but when you started Futurama, to me, you had this vision and your goal of like expanding our AOs to other guys, and you really had a passion about what that AO stood for. And then you led the CSAUP, and not only was it a brutal workout, but that was, I think, one of our first big CSAUPs that had a huge third F component. Talk me through, like, how did those opportunities maybe help, solidify Omaha as your home or grow you as a leader, as a man? I mean, how did those things play a part in that?
Yeah, I mean, for Futurama, that was a time when we were, Futurama might have been like our 5th or 6th site. Probably so. And, Oracle kind of had its own identity as it was home base, right? It's the mothership. And then you've got the MRFs, and Cornhusker is just right there is kind of the launching pad for District 66, probably, even though it's out there a little bit. But when I started Futurama, I thought, we just need to have some sort of identity. And I don't know what that is, but the identity is going to be, for me, like, maybe it should just reflect what I like about workouts. And what I like about workouts is going hard for the entire, 35, 40 minutes before the COT. And we're not going to do 6 minutes of Mary. It's just not going to happen. And so I would always tell guys, before they cue, don't do Mary. Like, just go the whole way through. And so that's what I tried to make the identity for Futurama. And, when I passed over the shovel flag to Othello, and luckily it was a very easy shovel pass because he reached out to me. And he said, hey, if you're ever interested in doing that, passing it off, I'd love to do it. And I'm like, well, great timing because it's been almost a year, so let's do that. And he's kept that going, right? So I think when guys go there, they expect like a good, hard, like, workout. The CSAUP that was total glue for me. I mean, to go through a 3-hour workout with guys, where, Big One, I kind of took different aspects of things we'd seen from around the nation, just searching through Twitter, and thought, like, well, couldn't we add that 3F component? So we always do a workout, right? And we're always doing coffee. So let's try to start adding some things in here. And F3Omaha had done some other third F things, like Plague. I think you and I were down at Abide for their Christmas store in one year. But we said, let's ask guys for a donation and let's do something. So we decided to sponsor a team at All Play. And, I think just that little kind of seed, guys started to see, like, hey, our next CSAUP, it's going to be harder, and it's going to be, we're going to have that third F component in it as well. And again, it's all those things together. I think it's the first F and the third F, to me, are what builds the second F, the fellowship. So, I mean, I hope we did that through that CSAUP. I know for me it was one thing which kind of solidified for me. I'm going to keep coming back, unless I'm physically unable to, which happens from time to time.
Now, but didn't we? So I want to back up. So the Futurama deal, though, there was something special about Memorial Park and that location and kind of the statue that's there. And
oh yeah. So I know, everybody tries to come up with, a unique name for their AOs, and I'm seeing all kinds of crazy stuff out there now. But with Futurama, I did some research on Memorial Park and kind of why that statue was there with the guy pointing to the south, and started looking into it, and what I found was that was a soldier. I'm paraphrasing here, but it was a soldier with a young child, and they were pointing towards the future. So I'm like, oh wow, I found the name, right? I was thinking of things like, dealing with Dundee or the military, things like that, and but that really, like, that hit me. I'm like, what are we trying to do? And with our fitness, with our faith, we're trying to accelerate all the time. So we're going towards the future, and it was kind of that aha moment, made it really easy. But calling it the future, I know some guys still call it the future, and some people probably think it's affiliated with what that Simpsons show.
Yeah.
But which I've never seen. So.
And so set the record straight. Yeah, it's not affiliated with the Futurama cartoon at all.
However, I mean, if you're some advice to guys when you're naming your AO, the more memes and GIFs you can find, you know, the better. That's how you name your AO.
So you've been known to unleash a pretty brutal beatdown. So what's the Redwood secret on planning a brutal beatdown? What any advice you can give to a guy planning his cue?
Yeah, I mean, if there are no FNGs there, I know some people love to do this, but I skip over everything but the disclaimer because I think I'm legally obligated to do it, and just cut the chit chat and get right into it, right? If there's FNGs there, I want to do the core principles and the mission statement and all those things. But otherwise, I just like to get right into it because I'm like, I don't want to waste these 2 or 3 minutes, right? But otherwise, I think 2 keys are to planning a workout are if you think it's not long enough, well, you can just rinse and repeat, right? So there's that. And then the other one is just don't have downtime, right? If you have to spend a lot of time explaining what the exercise is going to be, you know, we only have, the goal is to get it in and out 45 minutes, so complete the COT by 6:15. And if you're spending five of those minutes explaining what an exercise is, you're going to lose guys, I think. So just always to keep guys moving, make it really, really easy to understand what the workout's going to be. You know, I plan workouts on the way to the workout in my car. So I will say my VQ, I spent the entire week planning it and planning my COT, and I don't do that anymore.
I love that. I queued twice this week, and both of those were on the way planning. I planned the COT ahead of time. And then I also was going to ask you, because there's probably a lot of guys that don't know, or maybe some don't remember, but the Bull CSAUP event, I remember you started that with just this brutal intro at the woodshed that was like, I feel like it was Smurf jacks and a bunch of burpees will you explain to guys kind of what that was? Because that was different than our most recent CSAUP. It was, where did we started at woodshed, and I don't know if it's through that.
Well, I think you ran from Paradise over to Futurama beforehand. That was you did like a 6-mile pre-run beforehand.
With Biggie and I.
Yeah. So we started that CSAUP at Memorial at Futurama, did a quick warm-up there, and then ran over to the woodshed and did a beat down there. And yeah, I kept on hearing I still hear about that from guys. That was a really tough first 15, 20 minutes, right? And I'm trying to remember what it was. It was probably like a EMOM, like a every minute on the minute type deal, because I like those. But yeah, I think I did incorporate a lot of burpees, and it was something like we did 50 to 75 burpees before we had to go then on another 1 mile run. So, and we went from there to Cornhusker, and Cornhusker over to what is now Battlefield / Coliseum, and then on to Paradise. Yeah, so I think we got about 8 miles or so in. That was fun. We had the support truck with I think Tater Tot was a bruiser at that point, so he was support staff. You know, that was a great one too. I mean, for showing me what about the mission statement and the credo, right? We definitely we're planting something with that, and now you see, we thought it was awesome. We had like 27 guys show up, and now, you know, we have like just like anniversaries for, you know, Tater Tot where it's like 105 guys show up, right? But also the credo. I mean, we made sure every guy finished with another guy, right? We came back for the 6 on that, and I don't remember who it was, but I just remember there was a group of, you know, several of us who just came back around, and we were picking guys up to finish that last stretch into Paradise. And I mean, I hope that had an impact on those guys, and I think it did. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you look back at like retention rate of guys who did that first CSAUP, I'd love to look at a picture, because my guess is the retention rate of guys who did a CSAUP is much higher than guys who did even that first workout. Right.
So you had mentioned when you were talking about just being skeptical of F3, you mentioned maybe the faith component and thinking about the 3 Fs. I mean, obviously you're a fit guy. You like to run a lot. We do a lot of pre-runs together. Where do you see yourself at today? I mean, after 3 years, you know, you've had some injuries and been, you know, kind of sidelined for a little bit, coming back in. But where do you see yourself at with those 3 Fs, the fitness, fellowship, and faith components?
Gosh, so I remember in one of the first episodes, I think Selig gave himself like a 1 to 10, right? So, like I said, Brazilian would probably tell you when I first started, I was like a 4 fitness. I would say right now, I'm a hard 8, right? I want to be a 9.5 because no one's perfect and couldn't have much fun if I was a 10. But so I feel pretty good about that. But I will say I have taken some time off of F3 workouts, you know, particularly after some injuries during, you know, the pandemic. But when I do F3 on a regular basis, I am more fit than I've ever been. And I think a lot of guys would say that. Because not only am I getting a run, then I'm going to get in 45 minutes of, you know, Merkins and squats and all kinds of stuff. So I'm more fit when I do F3 on a regular basis. Gosh, fellowship for me has always been the most difficult one. I would say, you know, right now I'm probably at a 5. There were times, or I would say early on when I was doing F3, or before F3, I was probably like a 2, you know? So I'm improving, but I'm not where I want to be. I did not go to coffee after the first, you know, several workouts. I feel like when I started doing that, and I realized, you know, this is different from when I meet guys at work functions or meet guys through my wife. I'm going to see these guys again. And it's easy to make that connection because I'm sitting down with them and just having a cup of coffee, right? I mean, like all these old guys that I see at, you know, who are like 80 years old with their kind of coffee clutch, who I'm so jealous of. And I'm like, I want those relationships when I'm their age. Well, God, I can have that right now. Wow. So that was a real eye-opener for me. But I would still say I'm not where I want to be. So probably that's one that's been the toughest. And it's just more about being less focused on yourself, right? Being more open to having those relationships. And faith is also, that's always a tough one. Gosh, I would say it fluctuates the most, I think. So it's just trying to find that, it's not the comfort zone, what do they call it? The high impact zone, right? But I would still say, you know, probably before I started F3, I was probably at a 2 or a 3 on those. And so now I put myself maybe at a 6, but man, sometimes it goes back down to a 2. And I find that when I'm doing F3 more, when I'm going to more cafeterias, when I'm reaching out to guys, they'll reach out more to me. And so that makes it's all about trying to find more of a level, number, and getting all those things up to an 8 or a 9, right? So that one fluctuates the most, but I feel like F3 is, if I'm doing more F3, it's better.
Yeah, I love that. And a couple of guys have caught on to Selic's unofficial numbering system, but something he called out there, and I think you hit on this too, is in F3 what we call the flux, right? Or life on life's terms, or just the fact that they all fluctuate a little bit, and nobody's really living the perfect blueprint. And I love your transparency there. I think a lot of us could be more honest with ourselves about the fellowship, and are we really getting out of ourselves enough to develop those relationships. But I love that. Tell me a little bit about, because I know you've participated in Q Source and in some of our book discussions, and I think some of the early on Q Source discussions where it was like a smaller group, we had a lot of really great conversations. But have those things helped, or I guess I don't. Where would you say those things fit in if a guy's looking at things that he could engage in with F3 to kind of improve in those areas? Have those things been impactful for you?
Oh, sure. I mean, every time I leave a Q Source discussion, I'm like, damn it, I wish I could go every Wednesday to Paradise, right? That's a tough one, and it's more just working out the schedules with my M. But it's every time I leave one of those Q Source discussions, I do think about kind of the message that other guys are talking about, what the topic was. But that's the same as one of my favorite parts of the workout is the COT. That's really one of the things that kept me coming back, is just seeing guys. I remember it was Placebo who had a really amazing COT where he really opened up to a group of us at the Woodshed. And it just really hit home. It's like, wow, I can talk about these things. And there's really this emphasis for me on the trust part of the circle of trust. It's not going to leave that group, right? If I'm going to more F3 workouts, I'm hearing more of those things every day. And so I don't have this, weeks-long gap where I say, oh, gosh, I was living that message for a day, and now I'm not getting back to it. I haven't thought about it for 2 weeks, whereas I'm receiving that constant message. So going, for me, I'll say the sweet spot for me is 3 times a week, and then I'm hearing it every other day, right?
That's awesome. I love too just the simple comment about 3 times a week, because that's another thing. I think sometimes we think, well, if I'm going to be in F3, I got to go every day, and we all know that we talk about the Concentrica model, and one of the things that is not on there, fitness is not one of the rings on the Concentrica model, right? It's the relationships. And so I think just for guys to hear and to know, right, you're not any less part of F3 just because your schedule only allows you to go 2 or 3 days a week. I think that's important for guys to know too.
Yeah, I mean, how many guys have we heard who say, gosh, my M doesn't like it that I'm not getting home until 5 minutes before the kids have to leave because they've been coffee. I mean, it's I know we don't like to talk about balance, but you do have to. I think it was Point Break had a really good analogy once about where your scales, and I think he and making sure that you're at least balancing out those scales and how you allocate your time, particularly with your M. So yeah, for me that's my sweet spot. I can't always do it. One of my biggest regrets is that when I have been hurt is that I didn't still keep going to coffee. I think that would have helped me a lot. And so I'll say, if God forbid it happens again, which it likely will, just keep going to coffee, right? There's no reason. I mean, I get to sleep in, first of all, and just go to the coffee part of it. But I think that's a big thing to do.
I think that's a good challenge for people and just a good reminder just to stay plugged in. Whatever you're going through, whether it's an injury, some guys, whatever, if you just get burnt out on the workouts, that's just one piece of it. And as you and Plague have said, hey, that may not even be the most important piece of what this F3 group is all about. So I love what you said there. Just keep coming. Go to the coffees and enjoy the companionship with your brothers. It's pretty sweet. What kept you coming back? And did that change over time, or, for me, it certainly did. So I'm curious of how it feels for you.
I would say it was the COTs, which I just let myself be open to. And I think after going to enough of these workouts and seeing enough guys who I respect, who are able to open up like that. So, Brazilian, a guy I've known for, 15 years now, big one, right, who I've known that long, but never knew them, I feel like the way I know them now, right? So seeing guys who could open up like that in front of a big group, that was glue for me. Coffee, I think, I'm sure people have heard this a million times, right, from other guys. It's like, it's the coffee. I love the coffee. The coffee's way better than the workouts. But, we went down and helped plant Kansas City, and we told those guys, do coffee after every single workout, and that's really going to bring guys back. And I think it has. So those couple things for me are kind of the glue.
That's cool, man. No, those are common themes. The COT actually being one of the newer ones. I don't think anyone has actually mentioned how, just the vulnerability and opening up in COT has been the reason people have come back. So it's cool to hear. For the new guys, what's the advice that you'd leave them with the FNG? What's the piece of advice you'd give them?
Understand, it is not as corny as it seems, right? So I think that's how I would describe the first workout. I was like, this is corny, man. And maybe I was too cool for school, but you can only act like that until you're out of college, right? I mean, then you've really got to just step up, be a man, understand that being a man isn't being the coolest guy in the room. It's not being the toughest guy in the room. It's opening yourself up to all those other things, right? So don't think you're too cool for school. Don't think it's corny. You'll learn to love your nickname, so come back for the second workout. Finish the FTL, man.
I'm on it.
I don't think you have to read it 5 times, but you'll come back to it. Mine's dog-eared, and it's got Post-it notes and highlights and all kinds of things in it. So I'm never giving away my copy. I'm all shocked to hear on how many guys have given away their copy, but yeah. I'll buy somebody a copy. If you want a copy, first 3 guys that listen to this podcast, I'll buy you a copy.
Oh,
that's quite the offer.
Okay, I love that. They'll reach out. We'll do let's do Name-A-Rama, but we'll all 3 do it. How about that this time? Sound okay?
Awesome.
All right.
Sure.
So Brandon Fleethardy, 35, The Plague.
John Whitworth, 29, Pony Express.
Hey.
Nick Rudman, 43, NoDoze.
NoDoze. Nice. Thanks, brother.